Hey travelers! Mag and I here on day 137 of our trip around the United States. This morning, we're starting things off in the Cumberland Mountains atop Black Mountain at the highest point in the state of Kentucky at 4,139 feet. I love symmetry, and I think it's really cool how we were able to start the state at the lowest point in the very northwest corner, and now we're able to finish things off at the highest point in the very southeast corner of the state. I could not stomach the idea of doing another day of guardrails out here in Kentucky. I just couldn't do it. I was at my limit on that type of geocache. So we pushed on through the night last night and finished every single one of our county targets, which were all guardrails by the way, and got ourselves staged to be able to come up here to the highest point first thing in the morning. This is going to be our very last geocache in Kentucky. Ended on a high note, am I right? From here, we're going to make our way back down out of the mountains over a 290-mile course, and the rest of our targets for the day are going to be in Tennessee. Once we hit Tennessee, we're going to be following the northern edge of the state, heading east until we get to Elizabethton. Once we get to Elizabethton, that's it for the day. What's really nice is I looked over the target list for Tennessee, and as soon as we cross out of Kentucky, we are done with guardrails. From there, we're going to have regular geocaches again. We have some TB hotels on the list, a couple of virtuals, some earth caches, variety, much needed variety. I had a great time touring Kentucky on the western side and the central side, but I am done with this southeast corner of the state. Y'all can keep that. I'm heading to Tennessee. I know today is going to be a great day because we're starting off at a high point. It just doesn't get any better than this. I can't wait to see what Tennessee is going to have in store for us. So let's get out of Kentucky and go check out Tennessee. Come on, I-10, let's go. With Black Mountain standing nearly 500 feet taller than the next highest mountain in Kentucky, it is a long, windy road to reach the top. The best view of the area is not from the top of the mountain, however, but from the spot right before you leave the pavement to begin onto the dirt roads. A coal company named Penn Virginia Resources used to own the summit and required a waiver to reach the top. It is now owned by the Commonwealth of Kentucky, and there is no waiver required to make the journey to the top. Unlike most of the other mountain roads in Kentucky, there are places along this stretch to be able to pull off and appreciate the view below. If you do not have a vehicle with high clearance, or the weather conditions have been less than favorable, you can park a little less than a mile down the road to make the journey to the top. I-Chan and I were very fortunate that the weather in Kentucky has been good, and we were able to drive directly to the summit. Once here, we took our time to look around and appreciate our final views of Kentucky for this trip. My absolute favorite benchmark discs are those found at the tops of mountains, particularly at the highest point. Just know that right now, I'm virtually logging this benchmark disc on my account. As soon as we crossed into Tennessee, it was like everything had changed in an instant. Not only had the mountains leveled out, but the guardrails had all but disappeared. Our very first find was something that was not hidden behind a metal rail. Welcome to Tennessee. We are officially out of guardrail town and ready to get back to variety. Yay! One of our first stops was the Edward R. Towley Bridge. This old bridge was originally built in 1927, and the structure was unique enough that the state chose to preserve it as a historic site. It was named for Edward Towley, a Medal of Honor recipient during World War I who single-handedly took out a German machine gun nest. From there, we continued to work our way through the finds in the area, still saw no sight of a guardrail anywhere. I simply could not be any happier with the variety we have been seeing since we reached Tennessee. Our route today also provided us with several much-needed hiking opportunities. Although we had already geocached in Kingsport pretty extensively on previous trips, we could not resist the opportunity to hike out on the Greenbelt in pursuit of an earth cache on the Indian Trail Drive trailhead. Oddly, the parking for this trail is behind local businesses, and without parking coordinates, I'm not sure we would have ever found it. We branched out onto the Wetlands Boardwalk, which is a quarter-mile loop that takes you directly through the wetlands on Reedy Creek.
Here we learned about the importance of wetlands even in urban environments. Not only do they help to clean the water for drinking, but they also help control flooding and reduce erosion. Next, we made our way to Junaluska Park within Johnson City. Here you will find a huge wooden sculpture carved by Peter Wolf Toth. This Hungarian-born artist has actually carved a wooden statue of an indigenous peoples within each of the 50 states. This is known as the Trail of the Whispering Giants. Not too far down the road, we made our way to the Johnson City, Washington County Veterans Memorial. Dedicated on November 11th of 2011, or 11-11-11, this memorial honors all U.S. military veterans of Washington County who have served honorably since the beginning of the 20th century. This period covers World War I, World War II, Korea, Vietnam, and the war in the Middle East. The entire memorial is arranged in a semicircular fashion around the United States flag with each of the service logos on the outside. There are many interesting sights to see once we reach the downtown area of Johnson City. And while there were many fantastic examples of arts in the area, this one was my absolute favorite, because there's more here than meets the eye. By this point, Ai-chan was exhausted and ready for a nap, but I wasn't ready to let her sleep just yet. Together, we set out onto the Tweetsie Trail, which is a 9.5-mile rails-to-trail project, providing opportunities for walking, running, and biking in a beautiful, natural setting. We only did about a half-mile round trip before I finally let her settle into her afternoon nap. She was passed out hard by the time we reached our final destination of Elizabethton in Carter County. This is the site of the first independent American government created in 1772, located west of both the Eastern Continental Divide and the original 13 colonies. This city is also the historical site of the Transylvania Purchase in 1775, and a major muster site for the American Revolutionary War for both the Battle of Musgrove Mill and the Battle of Kings Mountain. Not to mention host to some fun geocache hides too. Our very last stop of the day would be the Sycamore Shoals State Historic Park. This park offers an assortment of living history, recreational programs, and events. Within the visitor center, you can take a walk through many interpretive exhibits that help you become steeped in the history of this area. One of the most important pieces of that history was the Transylvania Purchase, which occurred on March 14th of 1775. Richard Henderson met with Cherokee representatives and signed an agreement for 20 million acres of land. In exchange, the Cherokees received trade goods valued at around 10,000 British pounds. Having learned a little bit about the area, I woke the dog up from her afternoon nap, and together we set out on the trails, starting with a tour of Fort Watauga. This reconstruction is based on archaeological and historical research. Around the fort was a kind of glade, and the Indians could approach nearest the fort on the north shore of the river, which was skirted with trees. Behind these, the chief portion of the enemy posted themselves. One got behind a tree, and watching for an opportunity, shot when I looked through the peephole. The ball struck in the timber but an inch or so from the hole. And that is just one excerpt from the many historical writings that helped to reconstruct the fort. And that is just one of the many things you'll be able to learn about as you walk over 2 miles along the bank of the river. Ai-chan and I really could not have picked a better spot to end our day. The Sycamore Shoals State Historic Site brings together the perfect blend of history and trail time. And if you ever find yourself fortunate enough to be able to visit, this is a spot that you must put on your map because you will not regret taking a tour here.
And that's going to do it for our day. What a contrast it was coming down out of the mountains of Kentucky this morning and coming into Tennessee. It went immediately from all guardrail hides and windy, crazy mountain roads to beautiful scenery, great geocaches, and back into civilization. Since we've come into Tennessee, we've been in small towns and big cities pretty much the whole time, which is fantastic because Kentucky really took the wind out of us, and Tennessee put it right back in there again. Tomorrow is an admin day on the schedule. Right now, we're about half a day ahead from my push to get us out of Kentucky as quickly as possible. All things being equal, I would rather have an extra day to spend at my sister's house near Nashville, which is coming up in less than a week. So rather than taking our admin day tomorrow, we're gonna cut it short here before the sun even sets on us. I know, amazing, right? And we're gonna go and get our laundry done and take care of the bare minimum stuff we have to do so we can get back on the road tomorrow. That'll put us 2 days ahead of schedule again and give us a little extra time when we're near Nashville. If today is any indication, I'm looking forward to a fantastic time in Tennessee. Now I know tomorrow is probably gonna be our roughest day, but rough in a good way. We have to go out to the county and the page on the farthest east corner of the state. It's going to be very mountainy there, and we're going to have to do some major hiking. But I've curtailed the day so that it's short, leaving us plenty of time to go do the hike and ensure we've got that page. I see no problem with it and staying on a good schedule. Looking forward to whatever Tennessee has in store for us from here, because I'm sure it's going to be great. Thank you for joining us. Like this video, subscribe to stay tuned for daily updates, and we'll see you out on the trails.